my Friday morning live stream. So tonight, tonight I'm thinking about going live on my broadcast, um, just to celebrate the holidays, play some Christmas music. I might go live the next two because this year Christmas is on a Saturday and Christmas Eve is going to be on a Friday night. So I may go live Christmas Eve too. I'm definitely going to go live tonight just in case I don't go live next week. And let's just say that this is not just going to be Christmas music, but it's going to be Christmas present wrapping music. Get us in the holiday spirit. Right about now, most of you have probably gone and bought, are buying or ordering. If you're like me, you're ordering your Christmas and trying to get buying wrapping paper and maybe even putting up your tree. Some people don't put it up till Christmas Eve, and that's cool. Whatever your holiday tradition is. Um, I'm gonna put on a little bit of chapstick here because I hate having rough lips. So plus, if you're like me, one of my traditions in my house when my kids were small, but what my grandmother started with me, and I think it had more to do with wanting to have all of the wrapping paper up and cleaned up before our guests arrived, was allow me to open my presents at midnight. So because at midnight so if I go live next week, it'll be Christmas opening music. So kind of get us back in the holiday spirit. Okay. Okay. So I apologize now. I know, and I know I'm going to get some criticism from the people on YouTube, from the people who follow me on YouTube. Like, girl, you could have done this before. I know I could have done this before I got on here, but I didn't think about it until just now. So now I'm straight. Um, so now that I've so rudely decided to put my put my um put my lips kind of soften my lips in your presence, um, let me go ahead and go into what I've been talking about. So if you read the title of today's talk, I I'm talking about responsible sexuality. Okay, I'm not sure whether to put this under the Hoafine series or if I want to put it under respectability politics because this one probably Hoafine, and I may put this on the Anjanette Speak blog. I may also put it on the Sex Food and Family blog because I think that healthy discussions, because I made the Sex Food and Family blog for people to have responsible discussions concerning anything that has to do with sex, and especially female sexuality, because there seems to be a great deal of ignorance. So this morning I was, you let me, you know, so this morning I was looking I've been looking at clips of Law and Order SVU because that's the only one of the Law and Order franchise that's still left. The rest of them, have been, they let them go. Believe it or not, there were probably this is not even the original Law and Order. The original series, which was just Law and Order, started like, oh God, over 30 some years ago. That this one has been isn't even the original. No, I like both. I like both. We're, Mariska Hargitay does an awesome job as a detective. Olivia Benson, she's like one of my favorite actresses right now. So if anybody could have somebody be confused about any differences between her and her character, it would probably be her. So, and I love it. Um, and it's like one of my favorite shows. It's one of the shows that, I DVR it or whatever. I watch it and DVR another show. When it was on with Empire, I DVR'd Empire and watched it now. And you could say, well, loyalty to black art and blah blah blah. My loyalty was there. I still watched. I just had to spend the rest of the day not listening to anybody talk about Empire because I didn't want to. I didn't want anybody. I didn't want no leaks. I didn't want no spoilers. So this morning they showed a clip, and as you know, one of the pulls with Law and Order is that it pulls a lot of its stories and its inspiration from the headlines. So it's based on cases that really actually happened. Of course, they put their own spin on it and do, different things like that. But it's really, the headlines are the basis for most of the stories. So in this one, and if you've read the news in recent years, there have been a lot of conservative judges. So conservative for the basis of this conversation is going to be those who made in the 90s, we call them the religious right. So we're talking about conservative from the political, socio-political view of the word conservative, because you may have conservative, because you can be liberal and have conservative um, viewpoints as far as style of dress, sexual activity, dating, you know, different stuff like that. So, for the purposes of this conversation and this discussion, conservative has to do with a political stance. You may be anti abortion, you may be, you know, um, what is another issue? I know abortion rights is a big issue and they are typically against it. Um, Many people get the idea that because I believe in saving sex for marriage and abstinence, that somehow that means I'm a conservative. I'm not a conservative at all. Not even. I'm an independent thinker. I'm more of an independent than anything. I was raised in a family that had very liberal leanings. I have a feminist background. I don't believe that feminism lies. I still, you know, believe in women's rights. So in the show, there was a conservative judge that was judging a case involving a guy. I won't say pedophile, because I remember seeing the episode, and he could very well be, because there are guys who prey on teenage girls. But for the purposes of this clip, I'm not using any terminology right now. So he got an underage girl pregnant. And so the judge decided not to declare him guilty of statutory rape, even though the girl was not of the age to consent sexually. Okay. Now, I did my own research as far as the state of Ohio. Not my own research, but I had a paper that I was writing, and it involved, you know, a 17-year-old getting involved with a 30-year-old. And I had a little bit of experience with that because my son at 19 was dating a 35-year-old. Now, at 19, wasn't anything I could do about that because he's not underage. Once you're over the age of 18, you pretty much can be with whoever you want. Okay? But this judge based his decision on, well, if young ladies can go and get abortions without their parents' permission, a very, very controversial topic, then they can consent to sex. And I was like, oh, I was about to get in the tub, and I'm like, so this to me is one of those moments where you would like to be in the room with a guy who thinks like this and go, think, and just thump him upside the head. So I'm trying to remember, there was a fashion magazine, I think it might have been Glamour, that used to have this section where they've said a thump upside the head too. So a thump upside the head to this judge. Okay, so why does this have me? Why do I find this problematic? Because I keep seeing these religious, especially white males. Okay, but it's just as problematic with black men. Okay, so these religious types that over and over and over again don't seem to see the value in protecting young women from men who prey on young women. Okay, but will all day long protect a man's right to sleep with whoever. Okay, now the whole purpose for being able, even though I have my own opinions and I'm on the fence over whether or not an underage girl should be able to get an abortion without talking to her parents. First of all, I believe that if a young lady is pregnant at an age where she really is too young to be able to support herself financially, I think that's when you need your parents the most. And I think that people who don't support girls being able to get abortions as long as they can pay for them, whether their parents are there or not, tend to have this kind of myopic view of parenting. And even though I'm on the fence over whether or not I support that, I understand why they would want to give them rights, because some people's parenting style, they may as well have been born in a damn cave or raised by wolves. Not everybody is this wholesome person who wants what's best for their kids. If you hear some of the stories that I have heard on a regular basis, like I said, I've been listening to the Reddit stories. So, Reddit, if you don't know, is a social media platform. I think that's the platform that's owned by Serena Williams' husband. Okay, but they've been around like a very long time. And so I'm a person that on any type of blog, I will read the comments. I don't as much as I used to, but the comment section, I would read my own comments, and like there are still people commenting. I'm like, I do have other content other than the Bobby DeBarge story, but that kind of tells me to get back to movie reviewing again. But it's so humorous to me that out of all the content that I have, especially on YouTube, that's the one that's still. I put that up Lord knows how long ago, and there are still people. I just saw a comment. The person, I'm like, you didn't know that was a movie, that they made a movie out of Bobby DeBarge's story. Yeah, he's a legend. Don't get me wrong, he's a very important. But I'm just like, I just think it's funny. So I'm one of those people who read the comments and crack up, because people be cracking me up in the comment section. I have seen people have full blown arguments. I think I have had a full blown argument in the comment section before, because you say that people on social media don't let them get to you, blah blah blah, but all somebody got to do is say something that really really hits a nerve, and the next thing you know, you in an argument, and you didn't want to be in no argument. As far as like, it's just a mess. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, how come nobody ever get, how come he's not moral, how come none of these conservative religious types are ever morally outraged at the thought of a young girl getting pregnant by one of their old ass friends? Okay. For real. Like, why isn't that ever a sense of moral outrage? Okay, the fact, because if a girl is having to get an abortion, that means she had sex with somebody. Okay. So I'm starting to see where the black community get all that old hot and fast mess, applying it to young teenage girls. Teenagers are, trust me, I raised two people to get to adulthood. So I remember all of their growing up years and the stuff. And I watched, and I'm from a very large family. My mother is one of eight, and she's the only girl. Okay. My father is one of three, but but my grandmother on my dad's side is one of a large family as well. She has a lot of sisters, and I have a lot of cousins. So I have a lot of cousins. I have a lot of family on both sides, and I have watched a lot of little people become grown people. I have watched a lot of little people become grandparents. Okay, that grew up and now they're grandparents. They became grandparents before I became a grandparent. Okay, and that's a whole lot. That's a whole nother topic or discussion, and it isn't just because they had kids. Just all kinds of different reasons why they became grandparents before I did, and know we're not in a contest. Parenting is one of those things um, that you do that you have to do at your own pace. Okay, just simply because once they're here, you can't put them back. You're responsible for for raising and molding and shaping a human being, and not just sending him into the world, but you are also raising the mothers and fathers. You're raising the parents of your grandchildren. So whatever you put inside your people, they are going to put inside your grandchildren. And many times, and I've watched many people who made mistakes with their kids that they regret, and now they're having to deal with trying to correct some stuff that's going on with their grandkids. Okay, and not you, just it's but like I said, why aren't you know I remember when marital rape became was made a crime in the 90s, and people like this judge, well, you're talking about a fictional character. Boo boo, read the news. These mugs are all over the place and making some very controversial decisions. I'm like, okay, you allowed your outrage over this to affect this case, number one. So you're not making your decisions with any type of objectivity. You're supposed to be going by the law. But it's like, these are the same people that I heard when I'm like, why can't you be morally outraged that a man would be raping his wife? Okay. Oh, they were morally outraged because women are going to use this as an excuse to get out of sex. Well, since women already have a right to say no to sex, regardless of who's asking, okay, the fact that you're having a fit over something that really is an individual thing, according to each individual marriage. Why does a woman have to use marital rape to get out of something that she already has the right to say no to? Okay, that's number one for me. But when I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, I'm a new Christian, relatively new Christian, and seeing all of these. And it's usually these cult leaders. Like, that's the thing, is that they get to call themselves Christian. And if you study some of their teachings, it's like, where do you see that in the Bible? Like, this is why I have this desk reference, and what Dorothy Mason Wayan. It's excellent because it's kind of a quick guide where you can go to and find what the Bible teaches on different topics that affect our world. And she doesn't talk about marital rape specifically, but she does talk about denominations, and she talks about knowing the Bible for yourself. You're a citizen. When you accept Christ, you're a citizen of the kingdom of Christ. You're a part of the church, not just a brick and mortar building that you go to every Sunday and Wednesday, but you are a member of a spiritual kingdom. Okay, when we say that you are a member of the church, we're talking about a universal concept of church. You are, the Word of God calls you, the word that we learned at one of the dysfunctional churches I went to, but it's appropriately applied, is ecclesia, called out. We are words that one of the terms I learned when I was a very new Christian was, we live in this world, but we are not of this world. We are called apart from this world. So we are not a part of the world system. So we don't do things the way the world would do them. We don't do things the way the world would do them. And so it really bothers me when you have Christian groups who, when you get into their teachings, they're really not Christian groups. What they are is a cult. Okay, and they have all these weird beliefs, especially concerning women and sex. Okay, and every so often they will make themselves known, like the one who said, well, if you've been raped, your body would release toxins that would prevent a pregnancy from happening. Not only is it not in the Bible, it is also not in any medical textbook that you would ever find. Okay, and so like I said, you have to read the Bible for yours. The point that I'm trying to make, one of the things that Dorothy Mason Wayne emphasized was, you have to know what the Word of God says. You are a citizen of a country. You are a citizen of the kingdom of Christ. Being a citizen of the kingdom of Christ, you have to know the laws and you have to know your rights. Just like here in America, you have rights. I never realized from a religious group. And it turns out that group turned out to be a cult. Okay? And these was mostly black folks. Okay? Well, black and white. So, as a rights in regard to religious freedom, even in this country, because you also have to know you violate other people's religious freedom. Okay? You leave a church, use people who do crazy stuff you have to you because they left your church. Well, under religious freedom, you have the right to leave a church. If you start to see that the pastor is going off on a path, remember I did a teaching not too long ago about following God. And how do you know when you're following God? How do you know when a religious oppose him, you also better get on your knees and get to praying. Okay, ask God to move on his heart or do whatever. Okay, this is why I don't listen to every church that talk about submission. Okay. Mm-mm. Well, first of all, and those same churches, well, we believe in mutual submission. Okay, but you're still taking each other in wrong directions. Okay, it doesn't make a difference whether you're talking about submitting you one to another or why submit to your husbands or whatever. The first submission should be to God. Okay? If someone is asking you to do things that you know God does not want you to do, you don't follow that person. If a man comes to me and tells me that I'm supposed to be his wife, but he keeps trying to get sex out of me and he's not my legal husband, guess what I'm going to know? That he's lying. I told somebody one time, if a lesbian comes to me and tells me what God is telling me and showing me that you're my wife, I'm going to know she's lying. And I'm going to know she's lying because the word of God still calls homosexuality an abomination. Okay? Yeah, I said it on my platform. I said what I had a perfect right to say. Now, does that mean is me saying that it's an abomination? Am I becoming one of these Bible thumpers that hates LGBTQ? No, I'm merely stating that not everybody can come to you and tell you, and that seems to be the new line anymore to try to get women's draws off. Well, it's not even a new line; it's a very old line. But a old lie of the devil is God wants, and it's usually trying to draw you in to some type of sexual impropriety. God is never going to tell you to fornicate. God is never going to give a man permission to have sex with you when he is not your legal husband. And yes, I said legal. And the reason why I said legal is because you have people who are trying to make up spirit spouses and all this other stuff to try to well, let's get around God. Let's, try to get around what God is saying we should be doing with ourselves sexually, on top of a bunch of other stuff. So I'm here at work now. I'm usually done before I get here, but this is one topic that I guess kind of took me there. So I may get back on here this evening and everything once I make up my mind whether or not I'm going to go do a live broadcast tonight on Station Head. So if I do a live broadcast tonight, it's going to be on Station Head. It's I probably won't have it'll probably just be Christmas music and discussing the topics of the day. I reposted my posting from 28 Days of Black Feminism, featuring bell hooks. As many of you who operate, many of you who just like black authors, may not be a black feminist, but maybe you just like black authors. You know that Bell Hooks died this week. She passed away in her home in Berea, Kentucky, of kidney failure. So yeah, so at my feminist side was like, you have fought a good fight. She's had several